Welcome everyone. My name is Mayur Hastak. I'm from Adastra. I'm a data architect and I'm joined by Rajan.
Hi, my name is Dražen, work for CARIAD, and I'm product manager of our cloud analytics platform.
Yeah. So today we are talking about how CARIAD improved the data architecture and democratized the data using the data mesh. This is our agenda. We will touch what is the platform that we are talking about, what were the business challenges that we faced or that CARIAD faced, and how it was solved. And at the end, we'll show some technical slides on how it was all architected. So before we go into what is data mesh and why and how, I would just like to explain what the platform is. So Cloud Analytics Platform, CAP in short, is a AWS native platform which has been built since 2019. It has been extended with third-party services, analytics services, for improving the usability of the platform. Additionally, it has self-service BI functionality with Tableau and Power BI. And a lot of work has gone into making it compliant with GDPR, making it compliant to ITPEP, which is Volkswagen's internal IT security guidelines. It has also FinOps practice to check on the costs, and also it has a good observability of the infrastructure set up with observability tools. So where are we coming from? As I said, it started in 2019, and it started with one brand, one market, and a few use cases. So it all started with one AWS account, and it served a lot of use cases like sales steering, sales funnel, customer satisfaction, etc. This was fine. I mean, it worked for a couple of years, great. But over the time, more and more use cases started coming into the platform, and the platform grew very quick. So what were the challenges that a growing platform faces? So we faced that this single monolithic account data lake architecture was not sufficient. Volkswagen has a lot of brands, it has a lot of markets, a lot of national sales companies, and all of them wanted to do their analytics workloads on this platform. So the traditional analytical approaches of having a monolithic account and a data lake were not sufficient anymore. We were facing issues like hitting limits on the AWS accounts. The resource cost separation was a bit difficult. There was no clear governance, who is sharing what data is available on the platform was not possible to find out. And the data was repeatedly integrated by different use cases. So these were basically the challenges that CAP 1.0 in its iteration faced. Now, to talk about the business challenges, I'll hand over to Dražen.
Thank you. So let's move on to real challenges. Having in mind that the platform initially was only for one market and for one specific domain, sales, and one brand, it was pretty much hardwired, and it was hard to expand it or scale it. However, the outcome of the initial work, was very interesting for other brands, for other markets, and they very soon came up with requirements and ideas. Okay, give it to us. We want to have it as well. And at some point of time, we were trying to figure out what would be the best way to do that. Meaning, the platform was indeed one account, but it was extended with the Tableau service for visualization and for self-service, data access and analytics. And as such, it would be inconvenient if we would be copying this platform over and over again. So we very soon figured out that our challenges are some level of standardization, reusability of the resources, technology, sharing of data, sharing of use cases, and after all, knowledge. And all of this had to actually happen in some, we call it a multidimensional space, where we have a bunch of markets, more or less all Volkswagen brands were interested in it, and of course multiple domains, different data domains, from sales, finance, vehicle specifically, marketing of course. And all of this is running on a very heterogeneous set of technologies. So each brand had its own technology, like Hortonworks or Cloudera as an analytical platform, etc. So the question was what to do about it. And if we move on, we also had, let's say, not anymore necessarily business challenges, but technology challenges, like the data in silos, or most of the data are anyway in silos. So the data in silos lack of overarching visibility, because we can't show them, there is no central place how to discover what is in a specific silo. Then there is a poor decision. Actually, this leads to poor decision making, because if you don't know your data overarching, then most of, let's say, decisions nowadays require multi-domain visibility to make the proper decision. But if you don't have this visibility, then of course your decisions might be suboptimal. Conflicting truths is also one of the typical problems in siloed environments, because you have groups in those silos, and everybody is aggregating something, everybody is making some local insights from the various data, and they differ. So everybody has its own truth, which is, of course, undesirable. Then direct impact on innovation is something similar to poor decision making without overarching view to the data. You can't really progress very far. Difficulty in data governance, or I would rather say no data governance, is of course a problem which we need to overcome. And then redundancy, as a last probably here mentioned, since the data are siloed, everybody is making its own copies of data. So you have multiple versions and copies all around the place. The next thing we might look at is challenges from the, let's say, customer or user perspective. So they might, they usually say, finding the data I need is so difficult. Okay, I'll read it out.
I just want to get the access to the data I need. Where do I find it?
Or my team needs own data sets, pipelines, or my team needs to own data sets, pipelines, and repositories that are isolated from other teams. So I want to have autonomy.
Yeah. Or what are our internal policies on data sharing? What is the incentive for me to share the data to everyone else?
Or my team needs to own data sets, pipelines, and repositories that are isolated from the other teams. Yeah. Actually, that's repeating. Huh?
Yeah, it's twice, because this one is really important. And a lot of teams face this issue that they don't have an isolated workload. So one workload which is running for one team conflicts with resources for the other team, and that just messes everything up. And the last one is, yeah, where can my data science team find the data that they want, just easily? So these were all the challenges that were faced.
So if we move on, the first next steps we did was, or were, to analyze the situation, and luckily at that time we have discovered AWS lake formation technology. It was new at that moment, and on top of that, or in addition to it, there was this Colibra data catalog technology, which helped us streamline development into direction where we are going now. And basically, this is the idea of data mesh, where we want to enable multiple, let's say, individual or independent groups to effectively share the data, whereby they will have autonomy in its own group and autonomy to, let's say, consume the various data sources and produce the sources, or produce the data or sets of this data as a data product that can then be consumed by other parties. So if we move now from, or let's say, make a thought experiment and start from siloed data, the first thing is those siloed data might, in some cases, also be legacy applications. So operational plane, so-called. We want to bring this data once into cloud. And in cloud, in order to bring it in, we more or less utilize, bring the data in S3 storage or into Amazon Redshift. We use lake formation, of course, and once the data is somewhere in the lake, we make use of a glue data catalog. And altogether, it actually then, with the multiple data sources, creates this data mesh concept. But data mesh doesn't really work without data governance. So you can have a mesh of data, but if you don't have visibility on the data, it's more or less similar like when the data is just simply siloed. So to make the long story short, let's move to the concept that we now are pursuing. So on the bottom left, darker box is a representation of different data products, different data groups. They all live, in our case, in separate AWS accounts, have full autonomy to do whatever they need to do with the data, so ingest, use, transform, etc. Make some analytics, some analysis, create new products, and once they have something to share, they will publish it or push it into central data catalog. In our specific situation, it's a Colibra data catalog, which is being part of the overarching data governance. So once all the data products of various use cases, projects, you name it, are in the governance system, the Colibra as technology enables a very important ingredient, which is discoverability. So one of the first requirements is to be able to discover the data that you really need on the broader scale. And in the bottom right corner, there is another important ingredient of data governance. This is self-service mechanism, where once discovered data can trigger the process of approval and getting this data into the account to be used, which actually turns the circle. And we can, for instance, see that the data in one of those, let's say, darker databases or storage can be more or less with zero copy seamlessly shared to another account, because underlying to everything here is the S3 Lake or Redshift technology plus lake formation, which enables fine granular access control. Moving on, basically it's the view to the same, but from the perspective of one specific use case or one specific account. Where, for instance, on the upper left part, we see already published data sources from third parties, which have been integrated into our use case. The use case itself is serving all the brands, or most of the brands, most of the markets, so it's universal. We have a fine granular access control implemented, meaning although it's serving all the brands, it is possible to filter out subsets which actually are legible for instance, one of the brands. But the use case itself is completely generic. Another thing here is, of course, the description, which is not really well visible. Okay, yes, it is. Of the data product. So it's this blue description in the box. And once the data product is, of course, completed, described, published, other consumers can, of course, then access it and of course, use it. And I think it's your turn now.
Thank you.
Sorry about the time.
So we'll talk about the implementation quickly. We are short on time, but I'll try to catch up. On the bottom, you see all the data domains. So these are basically the producers of the data. These are all individual producers who own the data. They have the ownership. And on the center are the data governance components, which have unified data policy, which have access control, which have organization-wide sharing. And when these producers come along in the data mesh journey, they share their data products with the governance account. And the consumers from the other side, they also access the data through this governance account so that there is zero copy data sharing happening. But how does it work with AWS? So this is the picture which I would like to show. Each consumer and each producer here is a single AWS account. So it takes away the problem of resource sharing that we spoke earlier in the presentation. And the box in the yellow in the center is the data governance account. What the producers do is, once their data locations are finalized, they share the data location or register the data location with the data governance account in lake formation. And lake formation creates data catalogs out of it. And these data catalogs are governed by the lake formation in the data governance account, but the ownership is shared back with the producers. So the producers are now free to load those tables, extend those tables, add metadata to it, etc. And all those changes automatically get reflected into the central governance account. On the other side, there are consumers who also get access to this catalog from the central data governance account, and they create a copy of the metadata in their account, but the data stays in the central location, so data is not shared. One important piece of puzzle to make everything work together is, how do people search and get access to this data? And this is where Colibra Data Intelligence Cloud comes in. With Colibra, it becomes easier for the consumers to search for the data, and it has great integration with lake formation APIs, so that when someone searches for the data and requests for the access, the request flows from Colibra through the APIs to Lake Formation. Lake Formation finds the payload, it identifies what is the data, where it needs to get access, and it does its magic. There is an access control automation framework implemented here, which underlying is a bunch of Lambda functions and glue crawlers. But yeah, we wouldn't go into that detail in this presentation. So how does it look for the consumers? So this is the view what the consumers get when they log on to Colibra and try to search for a data product. On the top is the search bar. They search for a product. They get the results of all the data products. They look at the description, who's the owner, what are the attributes of the data products, what are the tables included in it, and if they like it and this is what they want, it's as easy as clicking on add to basket. So here we are trying to mimic an online e-commerce shopping experience, but for the data products. And when the customers or the consumers check out with the data product, the pipeline of giving the access automatically generates. So this is how we have simplified, or CARIAD has simplified the data shopping process altogether for the enterprise. So what are the problems that this is solving? We spoke about monolithic account earlier. This makes it scalable because every consumer and every producer is its own account. There are no limits to how much data you can share. The data governance and security is easier because whatever catalog of the data is, it's on a centralized account. There's enhanced collaboration because consumer, before getting more data in, will always check if this data product already exists and I can use it. And lastly, it's improved operations because the workloads are isolated, the data is isolated, it's more secure that way. So this is how CARIAD has implemented data democratization with data mesh and AWS. Thank you very much. So we are here in hall 15, booth D76. You are free to come and talk to us. If you have any questions, we both are happy to answer. Okay, no questions? Thank you.